What's going on, YouTube? It's me, it's the Masked Man, and I'm here for another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Little Mermaid situation. Now, a lot of people are very, concerned. They're up in arms about the Black Little Mermaid. And you have a lot of consternation, from several different angles about the whole situation. Here's what I'll say. Now, it is a reality that there is a vocal, white, or I'm not even gonna say white, but that it is true that there's a vocal racist minority who patently object to the idea of a Black Little Mermaid character. And they are fomenting, raging. They're, coming up with all kinds of rationalizations and all kinds of things to say why there shouldn't be a Black Little Mermaid. That is absolutely a thing. That is absolutely a thing. But here's my take. My take on the situation is that even though there is an issue with open, racist people, raging out against a Black, person taking a character, this kind of brings into frame the narrative that representation matters. There is this saying or phrase or however you want to say it going around these days that says that representation matters. Representation matters. It's important to see images of yourself. It's important to see yourself represented. It's important to, believe that you can do something, to see somebody else doing something, that is an important thing. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. Here's the issue. If representation matters, then it matters all across the board. Now, I don't want to come off as a coon because I'm not one. And I'm not trying to all lives matter this situation. But representation, like the white character of Ariel is representation. Like that represents, some little girl's fantasy. Some little girl can, or boy, can see themselves in that character. They can identify with that character. They can relate to that character. They can connect to that character. So when you change a characteristic about that character, when you make the character from white to black, what you've done in the name of representation matters is you've taken away one group's representation to give representation to another group. You've stolen representation to give representation. And people are acting like they can't understand why somebody would object or why somebody would be upset with that situation, with things playing out that way. You cannot take one group's representation away from them and expect for them to be happy and celebratory and congratulatory, about the whole situation. And I get it. I get the history of white people whitewashing characters in the past and them taking images of people and making them, white, even though they historically weren't. But here's the thing. The black Little Mermaid is being produced by the same company that produced the white Little Mermaid. The same people who produced the white Little Mermaid are producing the black Little Mermaid. So what do you think happened? Do you think that this company has had a massive transformation and now they are so concerned with inclusivity and representing for black women that they are trying to put out something that's going to uplift and elevate their spirit and their self-esteem? Nigga, please. This is some outrage shit. This is some shit to get people outraged. This is something to make people mad. This is something to stir up the pot, to encourage strife, to encourage quarrel, to encourage, argument. But it's not meant to be, a good piece of art that's meant to represent and uplift, the people who could see themselves represented through this image. everybody has already said the types of things that needs to happen. Everybody has already said that. Make original content. Feature, you know, feature people. I mean, create stories and characters, you know, create stories and characters that represent a different, diverse people, different, diverse groups, different, diverse categories, you know, create lanes for them. Create lanes for them, create lanes for people who aren't seeing themselves represented, who aren't seeing themselves, you know, shown. But when you take somebody else's story, when you take somebody else's, you know, thing that they relate to, thing that they connect with, thing that, you know, they, for the most part, made famous, it's understandable why there would be some pushback. It's the same thing as taking, you know, Superman or Superman's son and making him bisexual, or making or making Batman, you know, whatever. It's the same thing. The people who related to the character over the years, the people who supported the character, the people who made the character a cultural icon, a cultural touchstone, you know, that's not who they identify with. That's not who they look up to. That's not who represents them. So when you insert, you know, your diversity into something that is already established, you're doing that knowing that there's going to be pushback. You're doing that intentionally with nefarious intentions. You're doing that because you don't want to actually do the work to create something, you know, new that's good. You don't want to actually create things that are new and good. You don't actually want to put that work in. You don't actually want to put the effort into creating something that, you know, fits modern sensibilities, but still has a high quality of storytelling and you know, and the whole nine. So you take something old, you paint it, you know, up with some you know, modern paint, and sprinkle some modern jargon, and you call it something new. You call it revolutionary. You call it inclusive. You call it transformative. You call it special. And when people push back against it, now people want to act offended, and you're getting into a war, not realizing that the company who produced this is orchestrating this whole thing. Like, Disney is putting this out. It would be one thing, it would be something different altogether if some unknown company had made a story that was not that didn't plagiarize The Little Mermaid, but was basically what The Wiz is to The Wizard of Oz. If somebody had did The Wiz version, and I don't know who made The Wiz. I don't know what the behind, the scenes, who produced The Wiz. But The Wiz was the black version of The Wizard of Oz. And it had Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, etc. I've never seen it, but I intend to get to it if I can. The Wiz was the black version of The Wizard of Oz. If they did the Wiz version, if they did something like that with The Little Mermaid, like some company, not Disney, made the black version of The Little Mermaid, and it wasn't produced by Disney, and it had its own flavor, it had its own style, it had its own name, it had its own songs, but it was essentially a story about a mermaid meeting some guy in the real world. Like it was the same basic story, but just for a different audience. If that happened, and people had this kind of pushback, then it would be understandable why, pro black, people, or, pro diversity people, it would be understandable why they would want to speak out and kind of, spotlight the situation. Because if that was the case, what you're saying then is that we don't want to see black people represented in this way, period. Black people can't be mermaids or fish folk, or this is something that we don't want niggers in at all. At all. That's a different story than taking something that's established, something that's built, something that's defined, something that is already where it is, and changing it to represent another group other than the one that it originally represented and, gave something special to. So I'm not saying that white folks or little white girls or whatever are, lacking in terms of representation, that they are lacking in terms of seeing themselves or, having images for themselves. I'm not saying that they're lacking in that they can't afford to sacrifice or, or they can't afford to allow, little movies or plays or whatever get made, that they can't afford to let stuff happen. What I am saying that is this: if representation matters, then you have to, then that's something that has to be consistent across the board. Once somebody is represented, once somebody is being spoken for, once somebody is being spoken to, once somebody is being uplifted, once somebody is being spotlighted and highlighted and elevated and centered, you can't then take that away and give it to somebody else in the name of diversity, in the name of inclusion, in the name of progressiveness, and not expect for there to be a pushback, not expect for there to be some backlash, not expect for there to be some anger and some resentment, and not all of it is vile anti-black sentiment. Some of it may come off that way, but sometimes it's just like, man, why are you taking this from me? Why are you taking my representation? Why are you taking my images? Why are you taking my my escapism? Why are you taking away what I lived through vicariously? Why are you taking that away from me? In some cases, that's all that these people have. All these people have is these images and these stories and these characters that they live through vicariously. That's the only thing that gets them through the day. That's the only thing that, and I'm not saying that about Little Mermaid specifically, but just the images that they covet and that they cherish. In some cases, that's the only thing that makes them function. Just like a lot of legitimate white racists. The only thing that makes them function is the fact that they're white. It's like their personal, individual, actual day-to-day lives suck. They don't enjoy it. And if they had to confront the reality of their existence, they would either, kill themselves or revolt against society. But what keeps them going is the fact that I'm white, and just the fact that I'm white, I'm above a certain group of people, and there's hope that I can rise above my current station. And that's specific to racists, but in general, there's so many people who live vicariously through fantasy and characters and stories. They receive hope and they receive their identity from these things. So when you take that away, you're taking away a part of their identity. You're taking away a part of who they are. You're robbing them of something that is deeply personal and meaningful. And if you can't see a problem with that, then you're not very smart. And if you can't see that the company that is doing this isn't doing this because they really give a fuck about, little black girls being represented and little black girls having somebody to look up to, if you can't see that this isn't really out of concern and out of love and out of compassion, and if you can't see that this isn't really what this is, that this is, some baiting culture war type shit, then you're not using your mind, you're not using your brain. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. I gotta cut this off before, my camera cuts off. If you like what you're seeing here, subscribe. I'm gonna see you in the next video. I'm out.